by acknowledging the traditional owners. So as Darebin City Council, we acknowledge the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people as the traditional owners and custodians of the land and the waters that we now call Darebin. And we pay respect to their elders, past, present and emerging. Council affirms that the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people have lived on this land for millennia, practicing their ceremonies and celebration, initiation and renewal. The Council respects and recognises all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities and their values, living culture and practices, including their continuing spiritual connection to the land and the waters and their right to self-determination. Alrighty. So yes, again, welcome and thanks to everyone who's come. We're very excited to be at this point in what's been a bit of a journey for us to get all of our documentation ready and all lined up ready for the market. Before we go too much further, I need to make you aware that we are recording this session. So just wanted to be upfront about that. And this whole tender process, it's quite a big one for us in facilities at Darebin. And by virtue of that fact, we've got Pitcher Partners as a probity advisor to independently look over our processes and sign off sort of as we go. They were invited to come today, but I'm understanding that perhaps they're not in the room, but they have a keen interest in what we're doing here and are aware of each step. Good news for you people today is that it's not only me that you'll be looking at, some very good looking and smart people who are going to help me out with this presentation today. So I'll start off by introducing Daniel De Simone. He's our Senior Facilities Management Officer. I don't know, Danny, if you give us a wave, whether you pop up on the screen or are you already there?
Good afternoon, everybody.
There he is, Danny D. I've got Narelle Pratt, our Facilities Management Officer, who's helping us keep track of proceedings today. Welcome, Narelle. I've got Casey Ward, who you've already met, I think, front and centre there. Casey's a project manager with us at Darebin. We've also got David Sakala, who's the coordinator of our procurement and contracting area. You able to wave there, David? I'm not sure whether you're appearing, but I'll keep going. Well, I mean, that's essentially it from the Darebin side. Todd Bates, are you there? No. Oh, I thought one of the other team might have hopped in, but be just an observer anyway.
Sorry, Tim.
There he is.
I don't know if people can see me, but...
Todd's another facilities officer, so so you're aware of who's in the room from the Darebin side. Alrighty, so we won't take up too much of your time today, but as I said, this is a huge one for us. So we're going to break this up into sort of 3 sections, and I'm going to get some help from Danny and Casey on those. It is this package of works or contracts are the biggest that we have in our trade services with Council in FM. So we are taking a real interest in this and looking to drive some new sort of standards and partnerships with this. We really are looking to work with the best in the game. So here's your opportunity. As far as the general proceedings go, there's a facility here to do some chat work, but we would prefer any of your questions come to us through the Q&A section at the bottom I hope you can all work out how to drive that, but we will take note of those as we go and answer what we can today, but what we can't get to, we'll take on notice and get back to you on those. It'll just get a little messy if we have 50 or 60 people in the chat. So Narelle's going to keep track of those questions for us, and we'll do our best to answer those. All of the questions that come up in this presentation will be made available on the portal. So even those who are not here today will have a copy of what's happened today and a list of the questions and sort of responses. So I think that's probably enough from me. So Danny D. Simone's going to have a talk to you about just a bit of a summary about what the opportunity is. There's quite a bit in it. So over to you, Danny, and I'll hop in if I need to as we go.
Thanks, Tim. And good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for attending. City of Darebin, and along with the Facilities Management Department, we're very, very excited about this, these tenders going out, and actually really looking forward to aligning ourselves and partnering up with some specialist contracts. So we'll kick straight into it. And if I do sort of babble on a little bit, please stop me because it's something I'm sort of passionate about as well, these three services. So the opportunity is for councils seeking to partner with multiple specialist contractors to deliver essential maintenance and capital installations for facilities management team at the City of Darebin. So council is intending to engage 2 mechanical specialists, 2 electrical specialists, and 1 fire safety ESM specialist. The contract overall initially will run for a two-year period with 3 one-year options, so 1 by 1 by 1. The total maximum term of the contract would be for 5 years. Services are varied, obviously, program maintenance, reactive maintenance, and capital installations. We have an extensive building portfolio of over 200 sites, and they range in size and equipment, etc. And council's appetite is for the best practice and innovative solutions. So yeah, we really want the best out there for our buildings. So council's aspirations for the contracts. So we're seeking to partner with contractors that can work collaboratively with council to form productive partnerships, are clearly aligned with council's commitment and stated policies in providing safe work practices, provide quality and proactive expert advice, provide the highest levels of customer service and communication, share council's commitment for sustainability maintenance and capital solutions, and identify and act on opportunities for continuous improvement, and the contractors that are supported by reliable and responsive subcontractors, and will work constructively with other trades and services within council and understand the requirements of council specifications. So the overall services required for each services, council contemplates in engaging 1 fire safety ESM contractor and 2 mechanical services and electrical services contractor for program maintenance services. For mechanical and electrical contracts, program maintenance is divided up into 2 packages, package A being area 1 and package B being area 2. I'll get into that into the next slide. And contractors may be awarded contracts across 2 separate disciplines, but cannot be awarded both packages from the same discipline. So we can have a mechanical services contractor for package A and an electrical services contractor from package B, who are the same service provider, but we cannot have a mechanical services provider that will undertake program maintenance for package A and package B for mechanical services. I hope that makes sense. Reactively will be set on a panel arrangement for reactive maintenance and capital installations across both packages for package A and package B. Fire safety and ESM is 1 single contractor for all program maintenance, all reactive maintenance, and all capital installations. So areas of work for mechanical electrical. So we've subdivided the municipality into 2 areas. Area 1 being north of Bell Street, so Preston, Reservoir, Kingsbury, and area 2 being south of Bell Street, which is also part of Preston, Thornbury, Northcote, Fairfield, Alphington. Some of the different, so there's a diverse type of portfolio we have in terms of buildings in both areas. So various sizes, some A grade buildings, some Bs and Cs, etc. We'll talk a bit more about that in a minute. So our contract structure for mechanical and electrical contracts. So program maintenance for the retrospective areas. So as I touched on just on the previous slide, area 1 for mechanical, area 2 for mechanical, 2 separate contracts. The reactive maintenance services and the capital installations again will be across a panel. So it could be either area for those services. Just a couple of notes to be made aware of. Council may use either contract 1 or contract 2 for reactive maintenance and capital work installations anywhere throughout the municipality. It's not restricted to the program maintenance areas. So if you're successful for the program maintenance for area 1, that doesn't mean you're going to necessarily undertake all the reactive work for area 1 as well. And council has no obligation to use reactive maintenance services for capital installations. Reactive maintenance capital work engagements are not guaranteed, and council reserves the right to use other service providers outside the panel. Just some notes to be made aware of. So a mechanical asset portfolio, we have over 1,200 assets. Program maintenance for category A buildings are to the standard that are sent out in the maintenance determination for each site. These buildings consist of main council office buildings, town halls, some large art centres, etc. Our A buildings are generally considered to have integrated services such as fire, mechanical, security that all integrate together. Category B buildings, B, C and D buildings are our childcare centres, community halls, some of our sporting pavilions, etc. Not necessarily having integrated services, but some of them may have fire systems that may integrate to mechanical systems. So the requirement for our specialist subcontractors for specific services such as water treatments and control systems. And the requirement to undertake some ESM inspections as part of the program maintenance. So for argument's sake, as we're aware, it's smoke dampers and fire control systems. Electrical assets, we have over 750 assets. Requirements to undertake some ESM inspections as part of the program maintenance, and most of these will be emergency and exit light testing. Council is also interested in opportunities for continuous improvement for automation, lighting control, solar PV technologies, and seeking a contractor who shares the same passion and with demonstrated capabilities for new technologies. And that's something that we always want to do. We always want to improve and future-proof our sites going forward. So areas of work for the fire safety and ESM testing inspection is the entire municipality, as you can see there. It will only be one single contractor for these services for all program maintenance and reactive maintenance and capital works. So fire safety and ESM assets portfolio, there's over 2,200 individual assets across more than 200 sites. The requirement is to work closely with council's independent ESM fire safety auditing consultant. The requirement for testing inspections is mandatory by law and set out in the specification, and council aspire to achieve 100% compliance on an annual essential safety measures review, and is seeking a partner to ensure we achieve this goal. This is a big ticket for us. It's something that that we definitely want to achieve every year.
Right.
That's about it. Over to you, Casey.
Thank you, Danny. I think, it's a really exciting opportunity. And if that little bit of a snippet about what we're looking for did prompt any questions, please do remember to pop them in the Q&A function down in Zoom, and we'll answer them towards the end of the session. I know we already have a couple of questions, which hopefully we will address in the next section of our presentation, which is a little bit of guidance about how to submit a tender if this opportunity is of interest to you. So hopefully you've all had the opportunity to download the request for tender documentation package. I know it is quite extensive, but we have invested a lot of time and a lot of effort to try and structure our tender in a way that makes sense for the market, but also clearly articulates what we're really seeking from this contract. So part A is our introductions and conditions of tendering. Please make sure you review the important information in this document, which contains things like how instructions on how to submit a tender and the closing date and time, which of course is very important. Part B is our specification, which really articulates what we're looking for and how we envisage we'll deliver the services with our preferred contractors. So that outlines things such as how we want monthly reporting to work, what type of sort of registers we would like to maintain in relation to our assets, how we would like to issue purchase orders, and some workflows around how we'd like to work together. So that's a really important one for us. So please do take a thorough read of our specification. Part C is our proposed form of contract, which is a deed of standing offer, and we've provided a pro forma for you there. If you do have any questions in relation to that document, we do have our expert David Sakala with us on the line, so he will be able to answer any of those questions. And finally, part D of our request for tender package is our returnable schedules. So again, we've put a lot of effort into trying to make sure that our returnable schedules are simple for you to follow, but importantly, they do ask the important questions of you that we need to know to conduct our evaluation and ultimately determine who we'd like to contract with. So next, I just want to go through a little bit of an overview with our criteria. So our first category of criteria is our compliance criteria, and all tenders must meet and satisfy the requirements of these compliance criteria before they progress to the next stage of evaluation. So first is financial capacity. Please make sure that you thoroughly read our financial capacity questionnaire and answer that truthfully and honestly. And the outcomes of a third-party financial check. So I'll talk a little bit later about the staged approach that we're taking to evaluation, but shortlisted tenderers will be subject to a third-party financial check at council's discretion. So please make sure that you attach the relevant information requested from contractors as part of that, that tender schedule. The next is occupational health and safety, which we know is of utmost importance for these type of work. So again, please do thoroughly read the questionnaire and answer truthfully and honestly. Insurances, we do have some compulsory insurances in public liability, professional indemnity, and work cover. And we've also asked tenderers if you do have any product liability insurance so that we're made aware of that. And finally, our last compliance criteria is compliance with the RFT and specification. So that's making sure that you complete all the requirements of our tender schedules and that we can reach a position where we accept the contract conditions between both parties. So once we've got all the compliance criteria out of the way, we move on to our qualitative evaluation criteria. I do just want to make tenderers aware that council has made a decision that we will disclose the tender evaluation, the criteria weightings. So you'll see that they're noted here in our presentation, but we also will be issuing an addendum to confirm what those weightings are and to provide you with a little bit more information about what measures we'll be using to evaluate. So when this information is issued and when the presentation is released, please do have a thorough look. We think this is a really transparent approach, and we think it gives you the opportunity to put your best foot forward. So our first criteria is price, and that is weighted 30%. What I would like to highlight here is that both the fixed fee lump sum for annual program maintenance and the schedules of rates for reactive and maintenance capital installations form part of the criteria evaluation. So all prices are determined through a mathematical scoring method, but both your fixed fees and schedules of rates do form part of the weighting. Our next criteria is service delivery. So essentially here, this is where we want to know more about who we're partnering with and how you work with us. So this is important to us, and it's weighted 25%, as is your experience and expertise. So as Danny mentioned, we're really looking for the best in the business, and we're looking for someone who's well equipped and will provide us with proactive advice as our expert. So this is where this criteria weighting comes into play. Our next criteria is local business content. So here at the City of Darebin, we are really serious about contributing to our local economy, and we want to understand any opportunity that you may propose that gives back to our local community. So examples might be if you're located within the City of Darebin, or if you employ local people or have other connections that you can show that give back to Darebin. And our final two criteria relate to the City of Darebin's social and sustainable procurement policy. So in line with that policy, social initiatives and practices are weighted 10%. I encourage you all to review the City of Darebin's policy. We are a very socially minded local government, and therefore through our procurement activities, we would like to generate outcomes that benefit our local community, and whether that be people belonging to marginalised or minority groups, as well as others who might be, on the quest to deepen their expertise through training and other educational opportunities. So I think the key message is here is think about how you can give back through this contract, what opportunities you can provide that align with the requirements of our policy. And finally, sustainable initiatives and practices are weighted 5%. So here we're looking for companies who share in our commitment for making sure that the work we do minimises the environmental impacts through maintenance solutions and through capital installations. So if you are a real innovator in this space, if you share in our commitment, if you have an environmental policy, please use this opportunity to highlight these things through your tender response. So just some quick tips, and this information all is in the RFT documentation package, but I would just like to highlight a few things. Please make sure that you complete every tender schedule in Part D in full. This makes our job easier, and it makes sure that we're not coming back to you with clarifications, and that you're providing the information we need to make our assessment. To this end, we have created a little bit of a checklist, which is the last page of Part D, and hopefully that this provides a little bit of guidance and a few reminders about the type of attachments and the things that we've requested of you throughout the tender package. Directly address the questions asked throughout the tender schedules, and we really encourage you to make connections between what you might have done for previous clients and what you could offer the City of Darebin. So using those sort of previous experience is a really great way to show us what you stand for and what you could potentially deliver through this contract. I just want to take a couple of minutes to talk about the way we set up the pricing schedule. So this is an important component of any tender, and we've invested a lot of time and effort into trying to make sure that it is uniform across the 3 different packages, and that it extracts the right pricing from all of you. So to that end, we have highlighted all the cells that we require a price for in yellow. So in submitting your tender, please make sure that every cell highlighted in yellow has a number to it, or if you can't offer that service, or if there's an assumption that we need to be aware of, please clearly note it. But the idea is that all the services that we've highlighted that have a yellow cell attributed to them, please make sure that you complete them. We also ask that you observe the instructions. For example, when we're asking in the schedule of rates for what your rate might be to come out and conduct reactive maintenance, please don't include the call out fee in the, or the first the first hour of work in the call out fee. Make sure you separate those components and follow the instructions as they are. That's really important for our evaluation process and demonstrate your compliance to the format. So I'm sure a lot of you out there will be whizzes with Excel and will be able to produce much more sophisticated things than I can, but we do ask that you stick to our format. It's really important for our evaluation process. I just want to talk through about what we require in terms of pricing the fixed fee for program maintenance. So what we've asked of you is a price, one single price for conducting all programmed maintenance activities at each site across the municipality. So when you provide that price, there are a few things that you need to consider. It's a lump sum fixed fee price, so it needs to consider all the assets that we've told you belong in those buildings. So to that end, when you're completing your pricing, you must register, you must align yourself with the asset register and ensure that all those assets that belong to that building are included in your lump sum fixed fee for the year. The second component to that is that you must allow for all the maintenance activities that we've requested of you from the specification. So for example, got a little bit of an example just to run through so that we articulate this clearly, but you need to understand what assets are in the site using the asset register, understand the maintenance tasks that are required for those specific assets by understanding our specification and the appendices included, and use those to inform your annual lump sum fixed fee for the site. So hopefully this is clear, but I'm just going to run through a little bit of an example. So for example, if we reference the Bandura homestead, which is B018, we can use the asset register to look up what assets, we're talking about just mechanical here. We can use the asset register to see what mechanical assets are included in this building. So as you can see here, here's a little snapshot of what those assets are. But then the second component to this is that you need to understand the maintenance activities that we're asking of you for those particular assets. And that's where I encourage you to look at the appendices to the specification. With mechanical assets, what we've asked is for all of our category A buildings, of which Bandura homestead is one, to make sure that you maintain those assets to the standards required of Appendix B of the specification. So for example, here we tell you all the things that we need our kitchen exhaust systems to do. We tell you how many times we need that asset serviced and the activities that must be conducted as part of those maintenance activities. So then using all this information, understanding what assets are in the building, understanding the level to what we want them maintained, you'll be able to develop a single fixed fee lump sum price to service the whole site. So it's not pricing per an asset, but pricing per a site. And I do welcome any questions in relation to the pricing methodology. So what I've highlighted here is that our assets register is integral to be able to price the opportunity. However, whilst we've done a lot of work to really make sure that our asset register reflects the actual assets that are out in our buildings, we do recognise that our building portfolio is big, it's growing, and things do change. So I can't guarantee you that the asset registers that are included for the mechanical and electrical services are accurate. But what we have asked for as part of the specification is for all tenderers to complete, all contractors who are successful to complete an audit of the assets within the first 3 months of the contract. So from there, we should have a single asset register that we all agree is accurate and that we can develop and make sure that our pricing aligns to those. So we do recognise that, you know, within those first 3 months, we will be on a bit of a learning process together, but we should be in good shape to have a correct asset list at the end of that 3-month period. You'll also note in our pricing schedule that we have asked you for a management fee to conduct that asset audit. So just a few special notes on the tender. Again, this is just a few helpful hints to make sure that you read the specification and understand how we want to work with you. We understand that that will set the benchmark for our engagement and our relations together, and that will help you price your management fee to tender. One thing that we're really keen on is differentiating between systems that you currently have in place and that we know work, and those that you might have planned for the future. So this is something that we will likely inquire on our shortlist with. So please make sure you differentiate those as part of your tender response. Further to that, at the interview stage, we do reserve the right to hold interviews if we think it will add value to our evaluation process. And we do envisage that those interviews will be really practical in nature. We'll be asking you questions about how you work with us, what would happen in this circumstance, Can you show us how this would work, etc., etc. So again, please familiarise yourself with the specification and what we've asked for there. And also to ensure that you can submit a compliant tender, please make sure you reference that attachments checklist. A couple of the things that we do ask of you there are working with children checks and national police checks for all of your employees who are nominated, as well as copies of licenses and accreditations. Now, I've just got a couple of specific messages for each of our disciplines. So kicking off with mechanical, we have had a couple of addenda issued already. So I just want to recap and make sure everyone's aware. But addendum 1 clarifies the assets and the sites that we require water treatment services for. So please make sure that you review that information and ensure that it's accounted for as part of your lump sum fixed fee for each of those respective sites. Addendum 2 provides some additional information in relation to the building automation systems and building management systems that we have across our site. I will note that there are quite some detailed information for the large majority of our sites, except for there is one where we are just conducting the installation at the moment. So there's not a diagram for that. But again, all this information is in the notice of the addendum. So please make sure you read those thoroughly. Someone has already been very diligent and pointed out through the eTender portal that Appendix 2B was referenced in error. There is only Appendix 2, no Appendix 2B. And Appendix 2 outlines our maintenance requirements for Category A buildings. So just to be clear, our mechanical contract does have the largest amount of assets. For all those sites that are classified as Category A, as listed in the tender pricing schedule, you must price for those sites to be maintained to the standard detailed in Appendix 2 to the specification. For our other categories, our other building categories, that is, Category B, C and D, you don't need to maintain them to those higher standards that we've outlined in Appendix 2. Hopefully that's clear. We do note that there is a requirement for some compulsory subcontractors. Please make sure you nominate subcontractors for air quality testing, water treatment services, and the BMS and BAS maintenance. That's an essential requirement. And as Danny mentioned, there is a requirement for the mechanical contractors to undertake some ESM inspections. So make sure that's built into your allowances for your program maintenance fees. Next up, just for our electrical tenderers, please note that we've issued one addendum and that relates to our generator assets. So we do have 2 generator systems, which are both located in package A, that is area 1. There is none in area 2 in the south of the municipality. So again, please make sure that maintenance for those 2 generator assets is priced as part of the respective site annual lump sum fixed fee for program maintenance. All right, and our fire safety and ESM contractors out there, we have received a couple of queries in relation to the extent of assets that we do have across our buildings. So you will note that as a part of our RFT package, we issued an annual schedule of the inspections and tests that need to be undertaken across all of our sites. But what we understand from the market is that you really need to understand the assets that are within those buildings in order to price the services. So we hear this message loud and clear, and Danny and the team have been working overtime to make sure that we present our assets to you in a way that clearly shows you what's contained within each building. So we're almost there, and once we do have clear line of sight on that information, we will be issuing an addendum. Our plan is by close of business this coming Monday, the 15th of Feb, with that additional information. So hopefully that answers the queries of those of you who have raised that. Now, finally, the thing is, I just wanted to give you a little bit of insight into our evaluation process, which we will be conducting in stages. So our first stage is a compliance review and a minimum qualitative review of the tender submissions. So here we'll make sure that you have the insurances that we require of the contract, that you satisfy the RHS requirements, that you've completed all the tender schedules as we've required them and provided us with all the information we need to make further assessments. And then we will look at whether your company can meet the minimum requirements to proceed to the next stage of our shortlist. So just so that we're absolutely clear about that process, what we'll be doing is having a first pass review of all tenders to see if you meet minimum expectations in relation to our criteria. So what we'll be doing is essentially we're looking at the service delivery and experience and expertise criteria, these two criteria specifically, and making sure that your tender response provides us with the information to make an assessment on these and that it meets our minimum expectations. So I encourage tenderers to really focus on these components of the tender schedules and demonstrate to us that you are an appropriately qualified and capable contractor, so that we can assess these criteria and then, if appropriate, progress to the next stage of our shortlisting. So in addition to meeting our minimum requirements for those two really important criteria, you must also demonstrate that you meet the requirements of one other of our criteria, and that is the local business content, social and sustainable initiatives, or sustainability initiatives. So you won't be able to proceed to the next stage of our evaluation, or the tender will not proceed if you aren't able to demonstrate that the basics are met in these areas. All those tenderers who are able to demonstrate to us that they are capable in these areas will progress to the stage 2 of our evaluation, and this is when we'll undertake a more detailed assessment of the qualitative criteria and conduct a price review. So just to be clear, if the tender response doesn't meet our minimum expectations in terms of compliance and those quality criteria, we won't assess price. Price will only be assessed if the tender progresses to stage 2. Also, as part of this stage, we'll assess financial capacity. It's where we might undertake our third-party financial checks, and we'll also, in this stage of the process, consider any departures you may have in relation to the conditions of contract. We'll then develop a shortlist for each of our disciplines and for each of our contracts, which will progress to our final stage of evaluation, where we may supplement our preliminary evaluation with interviews and with reference to this before we finalise our scoring and determine which contractors we would like to partner with and ultimately award our contracts to. So I hope that's been helpful. And I hope that provides you a little bit of insight into our process, which therefore helps you put forward your best foot and submit a really great tender. Back to you, Tim.
Righto. I'm sure all of you in the room today will be able to see that Casey and Danny are the brains of the outfit. So thank you very much for that. I think it also highlights, having sat through that, that there has been an enormous amount of work, and I hope that as a group that you can see by that we're taking this one really seriously, and we are aiming to give it our very best shot. Okay, so there's some key dates, and we'll have a look at some questions that you might have had. We're just going to scroll through to those dates. So a reminder, this all should be pretty clear to you by now, but the tenders do close at 2 p.m. sharp on Thursday, the 4th of March. I've been around for a while and I've had amazing stories, not much different than the dog ate my homework, I got stuck in traffic, I've heard them all. Unfortunately, these are really hard deadlines, and I think if David's still here, he would confirm we can't really unlock the box once that date comes and goes at that time. So please, do your homework early, please. So we're keeping questions open. We've tried to give ourselves plenty of time here, and you, so we can still take questions up until 5 o'clock on Friday the 26th. That's still over 2 weeks you've got for us to sort of answer any of your questions. And a reminder that they are to come via the portal. think there's been a couple of attempts to get to various offices by email or whatever, but they have to come via the portal, and we'll address that so that all can see. So tentatively, the interviews will take place in April or May. I know it always seems an enormous amount of time that these things take, but as you can see from the preso today, there's a bit to work through. So it'll be well worth the wait, but these are the dates we're aiming for. And we're looking to start a transition in July for the official work on site to start from August 21. So still a little way off, but time to get our head around it. So a reminder up on the screen about where the submissions are to go to. So there's a note there from our procurement people about allowing time to upload. So it's obviously a bit of a thing. So be patient once you're lodging your homework. So. All right, so we're going to have a bit of a look at the questions. I'm going to give Danny and Casey a couple of minutes to have a look at those questions. And I'm just going to reinforce a couple of points that came through. I'm not looking to submit the preso entirely, but I talked to our general manager about the presentation today, and he was very excited with the response that we've had from the market. And he did say to me, Tim, you know, there's one thing I want you to really reinforce with this group is that the council are, as Casey's already said, really serious about the social procurement side of things and local employment. So I just wanted to, I promised him I would emphasise that point. I think you'll see from the work that's gone into this presentation, you know, at Darebin, we don't lean on shovels anymore. There can be a bit of a perception that, you know, council feel, you know, we don't lean on the shovels. We're looking to work really hard and to get this place in really good shape. So it's an exciting opportunity to be a part of that. Yep, I think, yeah, the only other thing I really wanted to say was please be honest about whether you're up to this. We will test you out as we go. We've asked for a lot. We do have a high expectation when it comes to reporting, tracking our assets, getting us information when we need it. Presenting your quotes, your invoicing in the right way every time will drive you absolutely crazy because, you know, it's what we need. We've got such a lot on. So, yeah, these aren't just filling space. What we've asked for is what we intend to get. And yeah, I just want you to be honest about if you're at the stage, if you aspirate, if you come and say, oh, we're planning to do this, or we're going to implement this great asset management system, it's probably not what we want to hear. We're more interested in you showing us what you've got, what works, so that we can hit the ground running and get on with it. So that's enough of a rant from me. How are we going with our questions? Do I need to join in there or?
There's a few that I might be able to answer and a few I might defer to Danny and a few I think we might take on notice. So
okay,
it's a combination.
Cool. Right.
So Danny, you happy if I kick this off?
Go for it.
Excellent. So we have had a couple of questions in relation to the fire safety and ESM asset register. So hopefully we did answer that question. Our intention is to issue an addendum by next Monday with additional information which will tell you what assets are within each site. So please hold on tight and look out for that information early next week. And if there are any follow-up questions, please do feel free to issue them through the eTender portal. There is also a question in relation to the pricing of the fire safety and ESM services that we require. So just to be clear, we are asking for a lump sum fixed fee for programmed maintenance only. Reactive maintenance services and capital works installations are subject to a schedule of rates. and we do require each tenderer to price those services based on hourly rates or based on a particular profit margin. So have a look at those components of the tender pricing schedule. They are on separate tabs. And if you do have any specific questions about what we're asking, again, please do come through the eTender portal. I think there's one more I might be able to answer, and then Danny, I'm going to shoot some over to you. There's been a question asked around the fixing of pricing, whether that's for years 1 and 2, or whether that's just for year 1 and subject to escalation. So the answer to that question is that we have asked for fixed fees for the principal term of the contract, which is years 1 and 2, and any subsequent years where council does exercise its option to extend the contract by a further year will be subject to escalation in line with CPI and the methodology outlined. So again, I hope that answers that question, but I might just follow up with a little bit more further written information on that one. Danny, we've had a question in relation to the fire services, and I can answer part of this question, but I might get you to help me out. The question is whether lifts, kitchen exhaust, air conditioning systems are a part of the package or whether they're electrical. And I think the answer to that is that there are some traditional essential safety measure assets that are managed by the other 2 contracts, whether it be mechanical or electrical. So for example, emergency and exit lighting definitely forms part of our electrical contract, as does air conditioning and HVAC systems and smoke dampers. And lifts are actually subject to a separate contract altogether. But in saying that, what we have asked and have noted is that our electrical safety and ESM contractor specifically, all contractors, but our fire safety contractor specifically, will have to work and coordinate with our other trade services. So that is part of the work, is to work with the others that we've engaged. And also, even further to that, council will soon go to market for an ESM and fire safety auditor and reporting consultant who will prepare our annual statements on our behalf, and we will expect that our maintenance contractor works closely with this consultant. So please make provision for this coordination as part of your services. Danny, anything you want to add to that?
Nope, I couldn't have done it better myself, so thank you.
Wonderful. There has also been a question, Danny, in relation to how many sites have monitored systems from an exit and emergency lighting perspective.
Okay, so predominantly our emergency and exit lighting systems are pretty much standalone to the building. Some of the buildings do have test points. Some are tested via the circuit breaker. We are in the middle of starting to roll out and replacing a lot of the emergency and exit lights with a self-monitoring and self-testing unit, such as a Clevertronics or Laverna system. So no automatically monitored systems. They are standalone, if that makes sense.
Great, thanks, Danny. There's also been a question here that I can see is in relation to the cross-referencing of appendices of Part B, and I think this relates to mechanical discipline. I think we might have to take this one on notice if there are discrepancies between our appendices. As I said, we've done our absolute best to make sure that the asset registers are reflective of what's out there in practice in our buildings. But when we're dealing with this quantum of data, I think it's safe to say that there will be some errors and some things we might need to correct. So I think I'll take that question on notice and clarify with the person who has asked that. Danny, another one for you. Is it correct that we have no car park exhaust systems or stair pressurization systems across the site?
Yes, that is correct. However, we do have a major sporting complex that does have a extraction system for when in fire mode.
Great, thanks, Danny. And Narelle, please jump in if I'm wrong, but I think that answers most of the questions now.
Yep.
Great. If you would like to ask a question verbally, please feel free to pop up your hand or unmute yourself and ask that question.
And don't panic, there's plenty of time.
Yes.
After this.
So I've just had another one come in. Has a list of BMS technologies been released yet? Yes, so please refer to Addendum Notice 2 that was issued, I believe, last week or earlier this week, which has a list and some system diagrams which details sort of the points of those BMS systems and hopefully provides a little bit more insight into how they're currently set up so that you can price how we maintain them.
We're almost at our 3 o'clock mark. It's amazing, isn't it? I thought half an hour would be right.
Sorry, that could have been my fault, Tim. But
Sorry, can I just jump in, Tim? Would you like me to explain to the participants here today just a little bit about the deed of standing offer contract agreement?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I think that would be very beneficial because I've sort of got a feeling that a lot of companies may not have experienced or worked under this type of arrangement. So it'll only take me a minute just to sort of pick up some highlights. So at least you're aware of the, I suppose, the mechanics of how that works. So I know the panels have already spoken to you about programmed and reactive, and we've got some obviously clarity there. But it's also the works will also include capital works, and capital works will always come with a quotation. So there may be times where we will be calling on you to provide with quotes. So in that instance, and where there is a panel arranged, I think it's sort of clear just to sort of give you some understanding of how that's going to work and how that contractually will work for some of your organisations there. But so in basic terms, the deed is basically sets out the rules for the panel. It includes things around what our insurances, what our privacy provisions are, what our basic standard requirements and nuts and bolts of a normal contract. But what is important about the deeds, it sets out the process for when council will issue you with a work order, e.g. asking you for a quote or to that level. So whilst it's at council discretion, it may request it from one or more contractors from the panel and provide some information which is very specific to that I suppose that capital works project or that specific piece of work, which includes maybe a draft scope of the works to be performed. There might be a start and completion date. There may be other information that the contractor needs to be aware of that facility, and if there are other things like bank guarantees that we may want to apply for that particular installation or piece of work, would be all articulated into that sort of a request or that work order request. So the contract will then yourselves will then be able to respond to the request and set out your proposal with a lump sum figure, and you might even have to break down the price and how it's calculated using the rates that were originally tendered for under the contract. And any other information that council may be required when we issue that work order. Once you submit that, it can be a couple of things. We can obviously award it and give you an issue with a work order. We can maybe seek clarifications to sort of make sure that we have got everything covered off and the work is all accounted for. We may even refuse to do that particular piece of work for a number of different reasons, or we may just issue the work to another contractor. So it is still competitive in that context. So we are ensuring that we are still getting value for money, but also we've got some clarity there. But regardless of whether or not council undertakes the process or engage in it, if the council does issue with a work order, it basically then becomes like a mini contract, and it covers off on everything required under the contract. It is based on the Australian standards AS 4000 based terms and conditions and general conditions, and you will have a copy of that, and I'll add that as an addendum as well to the deed of standing offer as well, so you're aware of what those standard general conditions that you're probably all aware of and are clear with, but it is then more specific to each time we issue with a clear work order to do a piece of work. I think that wraps it up.
So Tim, we've just had a couple more questions come in. If I could just quickly address those. Both are from people with keen eyes who have picked up some inconsistencies in our documentation, which from my perspective is actually great news because it means you're definitely neck deep in it and working through it. So it seems as though we may have duplicated particular sites on our schedules. In case that we have done this, please just note duplication. There's no need to obviously to price that site again. But we will attempt to identify these and issue an addendum to correct them as well. In relation to that, also had another question that suggests there might be some inconsistencies or discrepancies between where assets are missing off our asset register for sites that we have asked for a price for. So again, we'll investigate that a little bit further and issue addendum to clarify anything that we need to. So thank you to everyone with those with that attention to detail for bringing those to our attention, and we'll seek to clarify those as quickly as we can.
Righto, so we've got a little bit of homework to do, but I think we will wrap it up there for today. I'm hoping, normally I would like to have been able to at least give you a cup of tea and a biscuit on behalf of Darebin, so you got something out of this. But we are genuinely wrapped in the response and the interest we've got. So whatever happens from here, wish everyone well. Keep in touch, and we'll look forward to a good result in the end.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. All the very best.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brett. It kicked everyone out.
Can you do that?
Yeah. I just figured it out.
Oh, wow.
Mate, crack a bottle of champagne. Well done.
Thank you. Poor old Casey got the lion's share there, but thank you.
You
You
did.
did very well.
You did great.
Hopefully.
So we've got a little bit of homework to do by the look of it, just looking at those schedules again. Hopefully that's not too cumbersome, but they're obviously pretty hungry, that crowd.
Yeah.
Air control.
They're the ones who did the work for Ollie, aren't they?
Yeah, they're the ones that gave us a
They did
headache.
back.
A headache and a heart attack about and almost gave us grief about Dak. Yeah, it was
Well, I'm still fixing that, aren't I, Danny?
Which one, Dak?
Aren't they the ones that found all the mould?
Yeah, they're the ones that found the mold, but yeah, they're the ones that that kicked up a stink about saying the fire system's non-compliant and the whole building's non-compliant, and it doesn't conform with the standard, and they just went off guns a blazing more or less, but yeah.